But you know who retweeted the report calling them great people? Now, does it surprise anyone? Does it surprise you, Joy?
Nothing that he ever does, that you know who does, nothing just surprises me. I'm certainly not surprised by this, because let's not forget when he called white supremacists and neo-Nazis in Charlottesville great people, quote unquote. You know, it's his MO to destroy the press, because the press will tell you the truth, and the truth hurts him in his re-election plan. And, you know, he's worried. He's very worried. Joe Biden is pulling ahead. Not that this is anything new. He's always been a denigrator of the truth, calling the press the enemy of the people, which is right out of Putin's book and Stalin.
Yeah, that's what it was. He's scared of Joe Biden. Now, how do the ladies who lunch look at billions of dollars in damage?
Cops used tear gas, fires, and violence broke out, and critics are calling it a riot, not a protest. And the mayor, James Fry, said, you know, if he were white, he'd still be alive, which I thought was very telling. This is a mayor who happens to be white. What do you call it, Sonny?
No, I think I call it pain and fear and anger and frustration. People need and want real social change.
So these people are just frustrated, and they want change. Got it. Remember when tough-talking Democrats wanted to arrest people for going to church? It was not that long ago that the left-wing imbecile mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, threatened Jews with arrest if they held services. Something about his orders not to congregate. Well, here's how New York City looks far, far away from Minneapolis. God, I miss social distancing. And all of a sudden, the Karens of the world are not so bad. Here's a free civics lesson for the forgetful liberal. The First Amendment goes something like this. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. Key words in there. Now, a CNN reporter was arrested by Minneapolis police for refusing to move when ordered. CNN says that's a clear violation of the First Amendment. Yet, CNN supported every order to shut down churches and peaceful anti-lockdown protests. So let's all agree, all of us, that the Constitution does not go into a slumber because of an executive order. But back to Minnesota. Headline Star Tribune. Total of 44 charged with violating Walz's COVID-19 executive orders. Quote, a total of 44 people have been charged between March and Tuesday morning with violating Walz's orders to stay home or for restaurants and bars to cease dine-in service. Yeah, lock them up. Well, here's Governor Hang 'em High, Tim Walz.
We promised you today, and I want to thank Mayor Fry for the leadership today, and I think the issue of coordination and communicating together, this is the largest civilian deployment in Minnesota history that we have out there today. And quite candidly, right now, we do not have the numbers. We cannot arrest people when we're trying to hold ground because of the sheer size, the dynamics, and the wanton violence that's coming out there.
Oh, so you could roust a bunch of people for dining out, but when the you-know-what hits the fan, well, then let it burn, I guess. So exactly what was the left-wing mayor of Minneapolis doing while the city burned? Of course, what all liberals do, virtue signaling. Here's a statement from his office. Quote, the city encourages everyone to exercise caution to stay safe while participating in demonstrations, including wearing masks and physical distancing as much as possible to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The city has made hundreds of masks available to the protesters this week, unquote. Well, here he is putting on a show for the protesters.
I'm coming to grips with my own brokenness in this situation, my own failures, my own shortcomings, and I know there needs to be deep-seated structural reform in terms of how the department operates. The systemically racist system needs to be revamped.
I'm so woke. But when they wanted him to agree to defund the police department and he said no, here's what happened next when reality set in.
Go home! Go home, Jacob! Go home! Go home, Jacob! Go home!
Wait, I don't get it. If kind-hearted liberals like you are running the show, how could this cancer of racism be so prevalent? If Democrat mayors and governors continue to take the let them get it out of their system approach, the federal government must cut off funds. No more federal money for cities run by Democrats who refuse to uphold the rule of law. No more federal money to rebuild Minneapolis or any of these cities. Zero, zip, zilch. And no more of this game these Democrats play where they cry to the media about the problems of their communities like they're nothing more than bystanders. Look, if your jurisdiction sucks, guess what? You're partly to blame. There is some good news. The destruction will stop when these people have to get back to work. That's a joke. Try to imagine now having to pay taxes so the Democrats can hand out universal basic income to all these peaceful protesters. So here's the argument. You've no reason to hear from people who are screaming that this country is a barren wasteland of racism and despair. Calling the left bomb throwers? It's not a metaphor anymore, it's literal. And while billions of dollars of damage is being done, the self-righteous media keeps pretending that looters are nothing more than frustrated, undocumented shoppers, which is amazing considering the whole of the left was strutting around like the cock of the walk, ready to crack the skulls of anyone who would dare get a haircut. They sit up in their ivory towers and they tell us we don't understand the anger, that these hordes of rioters are just young people seeking a better tomorrow. The left and the media are using a tragedy as an excuse to foment a violent uprising in the hopes they can run Orange Man bad out of town. Look, I've said this time and time again. There is nothing the Democrats won't burn to the ground to win, and now you could see it's true. The media could scream all day that they're just neutral observers. No one with more than a single digit in their IQ could possibly believe that. And in a moment when the overwhelming number of Americans were in agreement about this tragedy, the progressive left decided this was the right time to light the fuse on a powder keg and then point the finger at the president. The memory of George Floyd has been lost in an abyss of rioting, violence, and left-wing politicking that will not bring him back. There is no honor or justice in destroying the property and businesses that others worked their whole lives to build. And through all of this, the Democrats still want the economy to stay locked down. Not one penny of federal dollars should go to rebuild cities where the mayors refused to uphold the rule of law. Not one penny in welfare should be paid to these mobs of thugs. You burned it, you bought it, rebuild your own cities. Now, to those of you out in the suburbs who have seen the protests move out from the cities, here's a little threat.
It's real bogus. They got to get it right. I mean, otherwise, this was going to happen. Ain't nothing left here. So when we start coming to the suburbs, when we come to the government center, then what y'all going to do? You see what I'm saying? So, hey, that's just what's going to happen, you know? Hey, the police. It's your boy Kunta Kinte. Hey, we out here.